Om Sri Sai Ram, Prema Vahini, Chapter 68. Seek solitude, meditate and acquire one-pointedness. Those who yearn to establish themselves in contemplation of Brahman, Brahmanistha, must seek solitude, practice meditation and repetition of the name at specified times, and acquire one-pointedness through these spiritual exercises. They must always be anxious to do deeds that will bring about the welfare of all beings. They must always be engaged in performing work without any concern for the fruit thereof. It is only when such people come upon the earth that all suffering will cease. This is the mark of the golden age, Krita Yuga. In this world, kind-hearted doctors run medical institutions here and there and serve the diseased and cure the afflicted. Similarly, if we had ashrams here and there of holy personages who were experts in the treatment and cure of the birth and death disease, then people could be cured of the afflictions of ignorance, untruth, immorality, and self-aggrandizement. Ignorance produces wickedness, and it can be cured only by the medicine of the knowledge of Brahman, Brahmajnana, with supplementary doses of the drugs, peacefulness, fortitude, self-control, shanti, sama, dama, etc. Instead of this, the great men of today give those who approach them the medicines they demand and the drugs their patients relish. They thus become the instruments of their followers, and for the sake of name and them, they behave like doctors dictated by patients. The so-called great fall into perdition even before they taste the spiritual bliss themselves on account of their weakness and foolishness in becoming prey to the wiles of the greed for name and fame. The main reason for contemporary poverty is just this. Present-day virtuous aspirants and great people have not understood this fact and don't act according to it. The holy essence has to be experienced and realized. Once selfish needs have to be sacrificed, there must be constant effort to do good to others. One's desire should be to establish the welfare of the world. With all these feelings filling the heart, one must meditate on the Lord. This is the right path. If great men and those in authority are thus engaged in the service of humanity and in promoting the welfare of the world, the thieves of passion, hatred, pride, envy, jealousy, and conceit won't invade the minds of men. The divine positions of the people, like the dharma, mercy, truth, love, knowledge, and wisdom, will be safe from harm. Jai Sai Ram. Om Sri Sai Ram, Prema Vahini, Chapter 69. Uproot internal and external foes and uphold righteousness. The police and rulers can overcome only external foes. They have no power to destroy the internal enemies. They will find the task impossible, for they are not the authorities for that. The internal foes, the 6 enemies, Arishad Varga, that operate inside a person can be uprooted only by the teachings of good people, love of God, knowledge of the Lord, and the company of the holy and the great. The world suffers harm at the hands of wicked people. When the police and the authorities responsible for apprehending thieves become themselves dependent on them. Similarly, the world becomes enveloped in darker ignorance and dharma is destroyed when those contemplating Brahman incessantly and the great spiritual aspirants give up the path of world welfare and become victims of sense enjoyment and ambition to earn name and fame. Also, suffering increases daily. The whole world will bask in peace and joy only when both groups, worldly authorities and spiritual aspirants, realize the right attitudes and with the welfare of all at heart, ponder the omnipotence of the Lord. These two groups are governments for the humanity's two states. Spiritual elders are the rulers of the internal state. Administrative authorities are the rulers of the external state. If both groups act and direct properly, both states will function to create happiness. The fault of causing the present misery must therefore be shared by both. It is at such times that the Lord resolves to vouchsafe happiness to all states and to suppress ignorance and injustice. It is to make this clear that the Lord said in the Gita, O Bharat, whenever dharma declines and evil adharma raises its head, I make myself born. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam Sri Ram Yasham. Jai Sai Ram. Prema Vahini, Chapter 70. Pray to God for His incarnation. Really speaking, the prayers of the great act as an invitation even for the advent of the Lord. In the external world, when the subjects need any convenience or help, they approach the rulers and inform them of their request. So also, in the internal state, when there is no possibility of achieving and acquiring devotion, charity, peace and truth, the great and good people who desire to achieve them pray to the Lord within themselves. Then, listening to their prayers, He Himself comes into the world and showers His grace on them. This fact is well known to all. Didn't Rama and Krishna incarnate because the Lord heeded the prayers of the sages? Many have read this in the Ramayana and the Bhagavata. Even Ramakrishna, though he was divinely born, prayed to goddess Kali, for he could not bring dharma about. To send someone who could preach to the whole world the dharma that would uproot injustice and selfishness. This is known to all who have read his life history. Thus, prayers should be offered again and again for the realization of the task. No one should become desperate and give up prayers if they don't result immediately in the advent of the Lord. In the external state, how often does a person have to write? How much does he have to wander about for the work to be done? And perhaps at the end it may not fructify at all. How is one to know the consequence of the soul's yearning? Since this cannot be known, one has to pray until the world is established in happiness. The happiness of the world is the sign of his arrival. If this is understood, then it is easy to recognize the avatar immediately. It is then that the religion of truth, Sathya, and compassion, Daya, and spiritual wisdom, Jnana, and the love, Prema, will grow and prosper. So, until these are firmly rooted, people must continue their prayers. This is the responsibility of the people. The road laid out by holy people has to be repaired now and then, either by those who travel through it or by those who claim authority over it. That is what is called teaching bodha. It is for the sake of such repairs that the Lord occasionally sends some authorized individuals, sages and divine people. Through their good teachings, The path opened by the God people of the past is again made clear and smooth. Thus, when the Lord's will, the needs of spiritual seekers, and the teachings of great persons produce their combined effort, the happiness of the world will be assured and undiminished. If all humanity prays at one time for unrest, injustice, disorder, and falsehood to be transformed into peace, truth, love, and mutual service, things will certainly become better. There is no other way out. Worrying is fruitless. This is no occasion for despair. It is against the essential nature of people to plead weakness and want of strength. Therefore, giving up the search for other means, people must try prayer, service to others, and mutual love and respect. They should delay no longer. They will soon acquire contentment and joy. Jai Sai Ram.